Hey everyone, one of the most common issues for new archers is as they're starting to pull back the bow, the arrow wants to come off the shelf, and that gets really annoying as you're learning to shoot and you're just trying to have fun. Most people, they put their finger on the arrow to try and fix that problem, but that's kind of just putting a band-aid on it, and it's kind of an unsafe solution. Today we're going to go over some of the most common reasons the arrow comes off the shelf, because it really shouldn't be doing that if your bow is set up right and if you're doing some of the fundamental things correctly. The first thing that you want to take a look at is how you're gripping the string and how much tension there is in your hand. If you have a lot of tension in your string hand and your hand is almost making a fist shape, that's putting torque onto the string, and that can cause that arrow to come off. The same thing with how you grip the string. Now the grip on the string is called a hook, and it really is just a hook. We're not really holding onto the string. We're just hooking our fingers onto the string and allowing our natural bone structure to support the weight. Very little muscle is used to actually hold onto the string, and that'll help you down the line with having really crisp release. What you want to do is you want to hold the string between your first and your second joint on these three fingers, your index finger, middle finger, and your ring finger. Some people like to hold the string a little closer to that first joint. Some people like it a little deeper. That's a personal preference thing, but as long as it's on that first joint or between the first joint and the second joint, you're going to be in good shape. Hook the string right there, and then just only use the amount of muscle tension that's required to keep that hook the same as you pull back. And you have to think about it like you're holding a bar with just these three fingers. Your hand and your arm, everything's going to naturally lay straight, because you don't want to use a bunch of muscle. You'll get tired really quickly. Same thing when we're drawing the bow. As you're pulling back, everything is nice and straight, and we're going to just pull straight back and maintain that shape. If you do that, your arrow should stay on the shelf for most people, but there's a few other reasons that can cause it to fall off. Another reason is that your bow is set up might be improper. If this, where you clip the arrow onto the string, is called your nocking point. If your nocking point is too low, so if you were to clip the string way down here, there's no downward pressure onto the arrow rest or arrow shelf, whatever you're using, and that can cause the arrow to lift up and pop off. How do you know if your nocking point is set correctly? Well, there's a few things that you can do. First is you can go to an archery shop. An archery shop will help you make sure that your bow is set up correctly, or you can use something called a bow square. Clip it onto your bow string and see what the height is of your top nocking point. We can do a whole nother video on nocking points. You can look on YouTube, but in general, where you want your nocking point to be is for an Olympic recurve archer about 3/8 of an inch high, and for traditional archers or anyone shooting 3 fingers under, you want your nocking point to be about a 1/2 inch. Some will be higher, but 1/2 inch is a good starting point. Certainly don't want it to be, a 1/4 inch or dead even. If your nocking point is set correctly, you have your hook good, and you don't have too much tension in your string hand, another thing that can cause your arrow to come off the arrow rest is an improper grip. So if you this is a proper grip. We have a whole video on Archery 360 on how to grip a bow properly. What we want is a grip that implies the least amount of torque, and torque is this side-to-side motion. We don't want that. That's inconsistent, and it can cause a lot of issues beyond your arrow falling off the shelf. So we want to make sure we're gripping the bow correctly. Again, we have a video on how to do that, but if you're gripping the bow like this, it's very easy to torque it, and that's a good indication that it might be your grip. The final reason is another very common new archer mistake. Is it's easy to buy a bow and overestimate the amount of draw weight you can handle, especially for new archers. It's super common. It's hard to really quantify, what a 40-pound bow is going to feel like, and you might think that you'll get stronger, and of course you will, but you'll pick up some bad habits along the way. So it's always better to start lighter. And if you're struggling against bow weight, it's very easy to make a lot of the mistakes we just talked about, and then your arrow might not stay on the arrow rest or the arrow shelf. Those are some of the things to help you diagnose that problem. Again, don't use your index finger, solve the issue at its source, and you'll have a much better time shooting your bow. I'm Scott with Archery 360. We'll see you all in the next video.